Hi, I'm Michelle. This is my so-called handmade life. I have a blog by the same name, and I'm my so-called handmade life on Instagram and Mamatronic on Ravelry. If you try to leave comments on my blog and you have trouble, I'm still in the process of preparing for a facelift for the blog. So before I transition to a new platform, I have to get some things in order. It may not happen in March, but it will be happening soon. It has to. So be patient, and you can always comment on any episode thread in the Ravelry group. There's my so-called handmade life Ravelry group. The episode threads, your comments will be possibly discussed in the next episode. You can comment on YouTube, obviously, and if you can on the blog post that features the embedded episode. If you are a member of the Ravelry group, I only discuss things that involve the podcast, like the podcast episodes, and if we're doing a knit along via the podcast. But other threads in the Ravelry group, they don't get mentioned here. Just letting you know. Apparently there's some Ross fans, some David Schwimmer fans in the Ravelry group. Brooke said that she and her husband are Ross all the way. I was telling you guys, I just didn't really like Ross when watching Friends, and my husband and I used to watch it when we were younger. And I was going to knit up this Monica's apartment colorway, and you can see it really is the colors of her apartment. But I wouldn't have thought of that if I had looked at this. I started knitting the sock in a movie, and the next day I mentioned to my husband, oh, this is called Monica's apartment. He immediately knew what I meant. I didn't even have to reference Friends. He was like, oh yeah, and what's the color of the thing around the door? And he remembered, which I thought was kind of funny. So this is the Kia sock pattern by Dawn Henderson. And you can see the little equal signs that the purl bumps make. Possibly you can. Let me get up closer for you. I like this pattern because the ribbing is done in a size 0, which is what I use 0 needles for my cuffs, for my whole sock usually. But then you switch to a larger size needle for the body of the sock, and so it's got a little more of a slouchy fit. I'm thinking it will. It looks like it in the photos I've seen. I love the idea of that. That's different. And I think this is a great high contrast mini skein that went with the yarn. So this was Mockingbird Fiber Co. I don't know if I said that. They are also not Ross fans like me. I never did finish my gingerbread socks because the one I was on was right at the place where I was about to need to do the heel, and we were going to see a movie, and I didn't want to screw it up in the theater, so I cast on the Monica's Apartment colorway for the Kia socks and brought it to the show. We saw A Star Is Born, and it was just a real downer for me. It's not something I needed to be seeing, I think, at this time in my life. Bradley Cooper is very believable. I like his acting. I like him, but I just wish I hadn't seen the movie. I'd never seen the Barbra Streisand or any other version of it, so I didn't know what to expect. Let's see. We've been talking a lot about accessibility of yarn, accessible yarns, patterns, kind of opening up knitting for beginners, for people who don't have access to a lot of the, the products, the yarn that samples are knit in, tricks for how to make it more affordable. And we've talked a little about Instagram and the feeling that it gives us. Like I had said that I'm a little overwhelmed by the commercial feel of Instagram now. It is actually commercials. I think it's like every 5th image. But on top of that, where I'm interested in a lot of the businesses that I follow and seeing their images, I kind of miss personal things in people's feeds. And also the super curated look kind of gets old to me. Several of you have agreed on that, and we've talked about it before on the podcast, but Brooke had said that she just has felt, let me find how she said it. I have it written here. She started actively seeking friends on Instagram that show more of their life and less of, those perfectly curated grids. She's looking for people that show their life and then just real joy of crafting. So it's kind of like it's helping her to stay focused on what she's working on, because she's not always seeing the next sample, the next, I don't know, what is it now? People do preview knitting and test knitting, and then the pattern's out and it's everywhere and it's very distracting, and she jumps from thing to thing. And this year she really wants to keep her goal of finishing her projects that she's working on, the things she has yarn for and she's ready to do, instead of jumping to something else. Also an issue for me, and several others of you had mentioned that's a problem for you too. So her idea of just starting to follow more people that are just working through their projects, not necessarily designers and businesses. That's kind of varying her feed some. I mean, she loves beautiful photos, and it's not that these aren't beautiful photos, but they're not, you know what I'm talking about. It looks like it could be an advertisement. I agree with that. I like real. And maybe I've done photographs that look kind of too curated in the past. I don't know. I don't I don't set up my home for that. In fact, like all the surfaces I used to take photos of whips on so that I can watch them grow with the same, table underneath. They're all just getting junked up, cup rings and stuff. They don't look so great. Yeah, I put a picture on Instagram and I thought of Brooke in the conversation because I was taking a picture of my Winston sweater, and my dog just plopped her big nasty wubba on top of it, and I was like, okay, here you go, this is real. Yes, so that joy that she's getting from watching just regular people show their real craft projects, and often a lot of it is more affordable yarn. It's just very contagious, the excitement of it, and it's just helping her to stay focused on things. It's inspiring to see people with a wide pool of activities too, not just the same knitters that knit the same types of things that she does. That's true. I like following all sorts of accounts. I mostly follow knitting and crochet, but there's other things in there too. And it's good. It's kind of the same as taking a walk. When you're puzzling over something, you take a walk and inspiration hits you. Switching things up, definitely. I found that, like the podcast, The Drunk Knitter, she uses a lot of more affordable yarns. And there's a lot of enthusiasm in her projects. And it is contagious. It's pretty joyful. I've really enjoyed watching her talk about the different yarns she uses, how to make knitting more affordable, all sorts of things. My notes are messy. That's why I'm struggling to read here. Regina has said she's deleted some subscriptions that she was following on YouTube because the podcasts were it was so much acquisition after acquisition that she missed the realness, the feeling of chatting and knitting with a friend. And so she just kind of tries to watch that sort of podcast. But she uses yarns, all types of yarns. It doesn't matter how much, really. It's just if it makes her smile. So it could be budget yarn. The social media really kicks in Brooke's perfectionism too, she said. She finds that the aesthetics of how things look. She just needs to let go with it. I mean, in all areas of life, she's found that the homes she has the most pleasure visiting are slightly cluttered and messy, just regular people, but they're warm and inviting. And so why pressure ourselves to keep the perfect house or have the perfect grid in our Instagram or whatever? I mean, I hear you. I don't have the perfect house at all. Things get pretty cluttered, even after a major cleanup last year. So I'm still working on that. I find that too. My grandparents' house was very, very small. Actually, it was the size of the house we live in now, which is very small, but they had so much furniture, things from all sorts of relatives just packed in. It lined every wall. And man, they made it work, but boy, it was hard to clean that house. You know, a larger house is easier to clean if there's not a lot of furniture in it, because you can just get in there with a vacuum and go at it. But when you have to move things like Tetris to clean, that's hard. But we always had the best time visiting them in that little house. They later moved. A hurricane came and their home flooded. They moved to a larger home, but I miss that little house. I dream about it regularly. Just the sweetest times, and just it was the most homey place. My children remember it too. They feel that way about it. Even my son, who was little when they moved, he still remembers a little bit about it. So I've been trying to stick with doing this every week, and that's why I'm going to try and throw this one out. But now for spring break, I may not. I don't know what's going to happen that week. My son might be staying with us, and I might do some impromptu day trips to go run somewhere. So if I don't get one up, I don't. But I have really been trying to do this. One thing that's making it tough, though, is I'm really, really trying to push and do some kind of last-ditch effort hormone balancing stuff. I'm at a point where if it doesn't work, the only thing else I might could do is lose a little weight and get to the weight that I was before everything became imbalanced. Because you know, like fat, it releases estrogen, and I have an estrogen a dominance issue. I really don't want to do that, though. I mean, if that happened naturally, just because I was happy and healthy, that would be one thing, but I really don't want to focus on weight loss. I'm just not interested in that. I'm very active, so I don't even know what it would take, and I eat really healthfully. However, you know, eating healthfully, getting 9 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep a night, getting to bed at the same time every day so that you can, getting exercise, taking care of your house and your things you have to do, it's like this full-time job, really, when you have to make a lot of food from scratch. And it's been tough to find time to do this and other things. So, yeah, things are stacking up. But as I thought this week about, okay, what else is there left for me to try? The migraines are the main reason I want to further balance my hormones. They're pretty horrible. And I think I might have a solution, but I don't really want to take triptans all the time. So I've been thinking about, okay, I could try eating this way and doing this, doing that. And, you know, I got this email from Chris Kresser. This is kind of totally not about knitting. And that's what I do. This is what I do, okay? I talk about whatever. But he said something interesting. The email was titled Beer and Pizza Diet. And he talked about someone that they saw at their clinic that he has. And he's really big in paleo and autoimmune protocol type science and eating. He's Chris Kresser. I'll have links to him. He's really got a lot of good information, especially if you're dealing with autoimmune issues or health issues. So anyway, I'm like, beer and pizza diet. So he talks about this guy who's really sick. And over the course of a few years, it just gets worse and worse. And he has more and more trouble tolerating foods. It gets to where he can only eat 3 different foods. And his life is just misery. He's sicker and sicker. He loses 30 pounds. Just not doing well. Very thin. Sort of wasting away. He can't work anymore. He loses his girlfriend. He's very reclusive now because he doesn't feel well and it's hard to go places and he's weak. So he becomes convinced that he's just going to die if he keeps going on this way. One day he thinks, if I'm just going to die, I want to eat what I want. I want to enjoy myself. So he starts scheduling get-togethers with his friends because he wants to live to the full while he still can. Now, typically when you do this, if you have any sort of gluten issue, which I'm sure he did, dairy issue, whatever, things really get bad and exacerbated if you just eat whatever. But here he does beer and pizza. He eats other foods that he likes, and he even starts volunteering at an animal shelter because he was training to be a vet before he had to quit school and his job. And so he comes in a few years later, and they see him at the clinic, and he looks like a different person. He's gained 30 pounds. He looks great. He's in good health. And they're like, what did you do? You know? And at that time, there was no autoimmune protocol. There wasn't paleo and keto and all this. And he's like, I did the beer and pizza diet. And he tells them. Things just started changing after he did that. And Chris Kresser's point is that sometimes there's real health issues happening, but our outlook and our emotions so affect them that they start to become the problem. He says here, like, psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology has revolutionized our understanding of how beliefs, emotions, and behaviors can literally change the structure and function of our brains, which then affects our gene expression in every cell of our body. This made me think of something Rosamond, one of you viewers, had said, because she had studied Chinese medicine before, and she talked about the importance of emotional well-being with your physical health. And he goes on to say there's a saying in Chinese medicine, and I like this. This is my point. It's better to eat the wrong food with the right attitude than the right food with the wrong attitude. And I just thought that was I was so glad I opened that email. I really like that idea. I'm about at a point where I'm grateful for the changes that have happened in the last 3 years to my health and my body. And I'm about at a point where and I'm not limited to eat only 3 foods like this poor man, but I'm about at a point where I'm just going to say, you know what? I've done what I can. That's that. And now I'm just going to live. I'm not going to be crazy and reckless. I want to take care of myself. But there's a point where you start worrying so much about what you're going to eat and am I going to get a headache? And that in itself is a huge cortisol spike, for your stress. So I'm going to take that to heart about eating the wrong foods with the right attitude. And, I'm not going to go eat a bunch of wrong food, but it also made me think of, in the Happiness Project, which I still haven't finished, Gretchen Rubin talks about acting as if to get more energy, because that was one of her goals. I'm about to fall asleep myself right now. It's evening, and I'm tired. She talks about just kind of acting as if. So she has very little energy, but, she's got to clean her house, and she's got to get some exercise. So she just sets to doing it as though she's happy. Maybe turn on some music and clean with some exuberance. And next thing you know, it actually is a scientific thing that the movement itself is so good for your body. Your body reacts by having more energy. I mean, this isn't the scientific version that I'm giving you, but you know what I mean. And you've probably experienced that. I have. I'm just going to kind of do that with all of it. I'm just going to try not to worry so much about the next headache. So just reclaim some of the athleticism or the vitality that I had, because there's still a little left to be done. But I will say this. Really, I'm going to talk about knitting, really. A friend that I volunteer with at BSF told me today, she said, you seem like a different person from when I met you. And that was about 4 years ago. We don't spend a lot of time around one another, but we were in a group together. And then now both of us lead children's groups. And she just said, you have what did she say? An enthusiasm or a glow about you that you didn't have then. And I told her, yeah, I was going through some hard times then. Man, that hormone imbalance was raging. And trying to treat it by taking more hormones was a huge mistake. I had a lot of problems because of it. And people I loved were dying, aging, and that was tough. But I told her that that year was the year I decided I was asking God to help me get a return of my joy. But the truth was, the more I thought about it, I lost my joy kind of when I was a kid and my mom died. Things just were I was never quite the same. There was some things that were just dampened and snuffed out. And all the things our family went through after that. And I told her that I have felt a restoration of joy, a great deal. Some of it that I haven't even had since I was a child. I know there's more to be done there, but I told her, you know, in the last few years, all of that's happened, and I've had so many people I love dying, and just a lot of sad tragedies and things happening, and even so, it's returned. And I just hadn't really thought about it that way. And it was kind of neat to have someone say that. And then coupled with what that quote I wanted to read you guys about emotional, your attitude, your behaviors, and the way you emotionally interpret your life. It has a big effect on your health. Now, I really did have a true imbalance. I mean, it wasn't in my head, and I did some things to help that. But when you first get those first changes, those first hurdles, and you see something good is happening, the excitement of it and the encouragement definitely helps change your attitude. So anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you. Some of you have talked about hard times you're going through. And I know some of you just personally are going through a lot. And I thought about you guys because if it can happen after losing my best friends and my father, my children moving away, and just some other friend passing, all sorts of things, and with migraines worsening all the time, it can happen for you, totally. So, we've been talking about accessibility and affordable yarns and things like that. And Andrea appreciated that conversation because she doesn't like the term yarn snob. And she said she finds that basically that the yarn, the value we see in our yarn determines the value of it. So if it's affordable yarn and we find value in it and we enjoy it, then it's very valuable, as much as something that cost more. So she also likes to shop at hobby type stores, and I showed you guys I think I showed you the Lion Brand Thick and Quick. This is the seashell colorway. Now, this is for the Winston pullover by Jane Richmond. Jane's is in fossil, and it's kind of a slightly striping, just a little bit, very subtle stripe. I don't think this does that quite so much. It doesn't even say it's striping, so I don't think it is. This is one of those giant packs too, so I have 3 of these, and I think it's enough for a sweater. I might have a little left over. You tell me if you think it's striping. Another thing that hides the striping is I'm going to copy Jane. She did her first one in stockinette, and you can kind of see the striping. Her second one's in a solid color, and it's in seed stitch, and that is what I'm doing here with mine. So let me see if I can show you up close. Do you see any striping to this? It has a heathered look, of course a pebbled look with the seed stitch. I can't see striping, so And I asked my husband, and he couldn't either. So we're, I love it. I love this colorway. This is so nice. And I got this yarn very discounted. Now, this isn't what I got on my birthday. I got it on the website, and it was crazy cheap, probably 30% off. And for those 3 large skeins. So this was a super affordable sweater. I would say under $20 maybe? Yeah. So anyway, seashell, or sea glass, I'm sorry, is the colorway. So I'm making some modifications to this, and it counts for the wing it cowl. The wing it cowl is where we just wing it a little. It can be a little or a lot in a project. So if you just want to do a dishcloth, trying a new stitch, or practicing your crochet, that works. Enter it in the thread. We're going to be doing this just maybe another week, I think till like the 15th of March. And then we'll stop the cowl officially. And there'll be some prizes. But after that, we can keep going and posting things in there. There's a real crafty group in our Ravelry group. So they'll keep inspiring you. So anyway, because I'm doing seed stitch, it just changed how I did my raglan increases. And I did an extra increase, maybe 2, so that I could have a mostly unbroken flow to my seed stitch. I'm not sure how Jane did her raglan increases when it's seed stitch, but you know, as you add, you know, your make one left or your make one right, it interferes with the knit purl, knit purl, knit purl. So that's kind of tough. I just kind of let it be messy, and then the next time around, I straightened it out. And I don't think it looks bad. I don't think that raglan line looks too messy or too bad. I just think it looks all over. It has that pebbled moss stitch look. So I'm really excited about this. This is like 2 days of knitting, and that's after making some changes, deciding I wanted to do the increases differently. It's so much fun to do something that's super bulky after doing so many fingering weight projects. So that's my affordable yarn project right now. Or rather, super affordable yarn project. I wanted to show you guys some things before I go any further. I'm showing this because Catherine was so good to do this, which she didn't have to. I ordered some charms from Bed of Roses, and that's Catherine Storey. Here's her little tag, and she's on Etsy. Catherine has some really interesting, you've probably seen the necklaces. They are stitch markers and charms hanging from a necklace. Often it's leather cording, and they're really original and interesting looking. And I wanted to get one, but then we've been talking so much about DIY and things like that. I decided this probably before the beginning of the year. I decided, no, I'm going to get some of her more interesting charms, and I'm going to use some things that I've been collecting, things that my mother's or grandmother's that were jewelry, just different little tokens that mean something to me, and I'm going to try to make my own necklace, and maybe a stitch marker necklace too. So, and then, you know, one day maybe I will get one of her necklaces. But so I ordered the charms, and there was a problem with the mail. Had nothing to do with her. It got returned to her, and so Catherine sent extra goodies. Let me show you these charms, though. They're interesting, you know. You can see little leaves, the stones, I love the little mushroom. And also she sent a little extra. Here we go. But then, and her packaging is great, by the way. She has little feathers in it. It's just so sweet. But she did not have to do this at all. But Catherine sent a feathers. A needle minder, you know, for when you're knitting socks or sleeves. That's what I call them, a needle minder. And a matching project bag with it. That's so sweet. So let me get you a close-up of this fabric. She makes really beautiful bags in her shop. Really interesting. She's just very talented. And I wanted to show this because I just thought it was sweet. She did not have to do that at all, but she's really great customer service. And also, she's just really talented. Now, when I make, if I mix these with some of just little meaningful jewelry I have, I'll show you guys how I DIY it. All right, that's my best attempt. So anyway, I just thought that was sweet. And I have my little Kia socks in this one. And the other thing I would like to show you guys is, we talked about showing acquisitions, you know, in one of the episode threads. And I get it. I get overwhelmed by seeing stuff after stuff after stuff. I know that people like to support small businesses, and that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm mentioning things that I like, but I don't do a whole lot of that. I like to mention things when I use them. But I did want to show you, because we're talking about interesting DIY, being creative kind of hacks. And I wanted to show you, Sarah Jane is Atelier Sarah Jane on Instagram. And she made this bag. It's like, I call it a mixed media bag. I don't know what you would call it, but it's a felted wool strap with little charms, a rose quartz charm. It's dyed pink hemp with a pocket, and then cotton that's this is all organic, crocheted flap, and a handmade porcelain button. Do you see the button? I just thought it was the cutest thing. And she has her stitching and her brand name inside. Let's see if we can get the camera to focus good. I just think it's the sweetest little bag. And a great example of craftiness and just mixing and matching and using lots of things. And she's going to, I'll tell you some of what she shared about her DIY projects. And with it, she included, I bought that in her sale, which she may still have some bags left in her shop. This is her new bag, hemp bag that she's got as a drawstring bag, and she sent me one of these along with it, which is very soft, and as you wash it, it just gets softer and softer. It's also a really good size for something like socks or something even a little larger. So anyway, this is sweet. So I really appreciated that extra in there, Sarah Jane, and I loved the bag. It's really neat. She had some little backpacks, other cotton, hemp and cotton crochet mixed, like bucket bags. So you might want to check out her shop. I'll have it in the description. So I asked you guys about some of your DIY stuff. I showed you my plunger needles and the ones I use weed eater cord to make. And I think I showed enough photos that you kind of get an idea of how to make it. I have a blog post on it. I may have linked to that. And it has links to someone who shows you how to do it. I asked you guys what some of your most interesting DIY projects were. And you said, Anna she couldn't think of any interesting DIYs that she herself had done, but she did know of a do-it-yourself drum carder that a podcaster's spouse had made. And there's plans to make it. I think the plans, it would run you around $100 to $200 to make it. And I have the link in this. I might even show a picture of it right now. Instead of the usual maybe $500, $600 that a drum carder would cost. So if you're into, treating your own fleece and spinning, you would really jump at that opportunity, right? I told Anna that I don't know much about spinning or carding, and I'd never seen that, but I have seen a few years ago. I thought maybe I would like to spin, but I couldn't afford a wheel, and I didn't want to do something that costs like that. But what I saw was someone using a bike wheel from a bicycle to make a spinning wheel, and I got the plans, but I don't know. It might be on my computer somewhere. I'm going to have links to that, maybe images, and there's a kind of spinning wheel that has a following on Ravelry called the dodec, like dodecahedron, I guess. It's really odd looking. It looks so like something the professor would make on Gilligan's Island, and yet it seems to work really well. So I have links to a video of it in use, plans, and just some different information about it if you're interested, and the Ravelry group that has to do with those. But they said I think one of the links I'm going to have, or one of the images I'll show you, is it cost under $20 for this spinning wheel to be made. So that's pretty cool. That is a low cost investment just to see if you like spinning. Sarah Jane, who made these bags, said that she's done so much DIY, and I'm really interested to see some of her home photos of her home, because they've just been changing it from top to bottom since they moved in. She's made bookshelves, cupboards, whole rooms where they weren't there, worked on plaster, crochet dragon hats. She works with leftover bits of wood and things that she finds, just found objects, and is always making something. And lately she's found joy in dyeing yarn with things like avocados, natural dyes. She's also started sewing things for her friends, which is kind of a challenge. Sewing for your own body, if you mess up, oh well. But sewing for someone else, you don't have them all the time to try things on. It's just a little trickier, and that's a sign of confidence, and that's going to grow your crafting confidence, I think, Sarah. She's also wanting to learn to spin, and will be going soon to Texel Island, where they've got a really great wool heritage, from what she said, and she's going to learn from someone who's a very enthusiastic spinning teacher. So that's exciting. So Sarah Jane, do you have a wheel? Have you considered making a wheel? If you really get into, handling your own fleece, there's links for a drum carder and your own wheel that you could make yourself. Jen said she couldn't think of a DIY she did solely by herself, but her husband made a dollhouse for their daughter years ago, and she so enjoyed collecting bits of wallpaper and carpet and pieces of furniture and making the inside of the house, decorating it and making furniture for it. It's a really sweet memory for her. Ada said she had tried yarn dyeing with Easter egg dye, so I guess food coloring, and she used rose petals also, and she really enjoyed it. She's a painter, and so she gets the method of dyeing and really enjoys it, but like some dyers say, it is tricky to find the right pattern if it's very wildly colored or variegated. And it is hard to make one skein the same as another when you dye them. She also mentioned that she would like to knit a shifty too, and if she did, she would also want to use fingering weight because it slip stitches. It gives you a double fabric. It's almost like kind of Fair Isle gives you double thickness. It's all over slip stitches, so it would be double weight, and she was like, sport weight doubled would just be too heavy for her, but fingering weight would be a little more wearable in her climate. I'm thinking the same thing. So I hope that we'll see what you do. I hope you'll be posting photos, Ada. She also won some in a giveaway, Noro silk or garden silk, I think is what it's called, garden silk yarn. That's what Chaitanya gave me, and I showed you guys, not in the last episode, but the one before. And it is a sock yarn with silk, and she's wanting to use it for color work because she feels like the colors will pop. And that's a great idea. But I'm wondering, Ada, are you going to use it on socks, colorwork socks, or just something else, another accessory or garment? I really want to use mine for socks, but the idea of colorwork is smart. I love the idea of a pair of socks I can wear all year, because I only get to wear mine for a couple of months that I make myself. Katinka is like DIY master, and interesting DIY master. She said, crazy or alternative? I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. She made a backdoor mat out of plastic string. She used needles to knit that were made from drumsticks. And that made me think of those plastic bag yarn mats that people make. I believe it was to go in hospitals that could be easily cleaned. So anyway, it is a way to reuse, isn't it? Then she also, this is my favorite, she spun yarn and made a scarf for her nephew using her husky dog's fur. Oh my gosh, I so want to see a picture of this, Katinka. I hope you'll post one on Instagram, or direct message me the picture on Instagram, and I won't share it if you don't want me to. Oh my goodness, that excites me so much. She knit lace using 3 strands of cotton together. Now I'm wondering, were they thin cotton strands or were they large? Because I've thought of taking multiple strands of like sugar and cream cotton and making a doily that would actually end up being, rather than, I have my grandmother's, one of her doilies right here. It's actually kind of aged and yellow. She, her mother-in-law made this, my great-grandmother. But I have so much stuff like this that my great-grandmother made, so good. I don't set much of it around though until I don't have cats anymore. I hate to say it, but my animals, I just don't want them to destroy it. Anyway, if you knit, this is knit with fine crochet thread. If you knit this with super bulky or bulky mixture of cottons, you would have a rug. And a friend online, Jennifer Kelly, she made a rug like that. And it would make a good bath mat or rug. And she just did a small doily directions, but she used large yarn. So I'm sorry if I look like I'm falling asleep, guys. I'm just tired. Having sleep issues. Another thing Katinka tried was knitting with copper wire. Were you making jewelry, Katinka? Because I've seen patterns for necklaces and earrings and things, jewelry, knit with wire. She said it was hard on her hands, but it did work. And I've wondered how that would work. I'm interested to know. I have lots of questions about your project she made, but I definitely want to see a picture of that husky scarf if you have one. Dawn had suggested, if you want to make little flexible circular chunky needles like I made with the, I showed it 2 episodes back, with the big, like, I don't know, size 50 needles, and then I had tubing from the water tank, the water in our refrigerator, you know, the tubing that goes into the back of it to have filtered water. But it wasn't very flexible. She said oxygen tank tubing is super flexible and easy to get your hands on, and that's a great idea. And that is probably what I saw online. I saw people with thick tubing, and they probably were using that type. And that's why it was so much more flexible than mine. Mine was kind of, it looked like I could pop it and break it if I was too rough with it. Thank you for the idea, Dawn. I don't know that I'll ever make needles like that again because it was really tough. but they would work. I don't think I ever used those giant ones though. I think I've only used my size 11s or 13s that I made. So let's talk about the Wing It cow. Let's see. Pam has finished she's close to finishing her mitts. If she's finished them by now, I'll try and put a picture up. But she said she is so inspired by what she sees everybody doing in this cow that she's wanting to get even more adventurous. She thought she was adventurous. She could do even more. She's seeing that now. And then Ada's made some impromptu socks that she just whipped up, and it's kind of like they don't perfectly match. It's real scrappy and cute looking. I'll have images of those too. Nick made a baby sweater, but rather than making it stockinette, she knit stripes in. So hey, that counts as a modification of some sort. She's winging it on when to stripe and when to change colors. The other Ada has been working on a vest, and she wanted to steek it. And I've never seen a vest pre-steeking. I'm going to show you an image here. It's so weird and interesting looking, and I'm just, steeking once sounded scary to me. It doesn't now. But the idea of figuring out how you want to steek it when it's sleeves and a V-neck for the sweater, I just think that's so interesting. Really neat. So I can't wait to see how it comes out. But she's basically finished, except for the steeking. Now, Louise has been working on the Anchor Summer shirt, and that's by Petite Knits, and it's kind of a yoke sweater, and it's a short sleeve sweater. And she's wanting to get somewhere between 2 sizes, so she's probably going to do similar to what I did with my Winston. She's going to just maybe add, or she has actually, I think, added some raglan increases and maybe do some things to add sleeve stitches, things like that. I don't quite know everything that she's done, and she may have changed her mind at this point, knit back and then re-knit. But she's making quick progress with this. So that's part of our knit along because she's winging it. Sarah Jane had some FO pics of her cartography, and it's beautiful, which she modified by cropping it, and she just did 2 colors, which is a neat look. I like a lot of the multicolored Fair Isle patterns. To just go back to 2 colors actually gives it a whole new look. She also found I think I said it in the last episode, she found a half knit sweater at a thrift store, and she bought it and is going to finish it. She's calling it Finished with Love. She's going to finish it, so that's totally winging it. And the ladies in the thrift store were so excited that she was going to try and complete it. It had the yarn with it, so I think that's special. That's definitely a very sustainable, and I don't know, there's just some history to that knit. Carmen is she's using her own hand-dyed yarn. I think I showed you a couple of weeks ago for Gramps Revive, and it's going to be really cute. I'm not sure where she's at on this now, because I don't know which picture I showed you and how far along she was, but anyway, I'm just really loving seeing all of your projects and your ideas, and there's been some really great links and references in that knit along. So what do I have to show you knit along wise? Let's see. I don't even have it in here. This week, I did episode 27 just a few days ago, and I have not worked on my sweater since then. I kind of went, we went to a movie, and I wanted something I could use there, and then I kind of got crazy for super bulky stuff. I realize I'm probably not going to have that sweater finished by, well, I might get it finished by the 15th, but I want to knit a sport weight version too. I knew I would need quite a bit of well, it's not as much as like bulky, the Iran that I'm using for my other one, but the sport weight version, I might make it cropped. I'll see how the other one, if it grows. But what I think I'm going to do is make it kind of reverse the colors, like have the background color, the main color be this navy. This is, again, affordable yarn. It's Cascade Sport, 220 Sport. So this navy, and then have my contrasting stripes and plaids be in this kind of a grello and a gray. And I thought these would look nice together. So it's going to really change the look of it up to have a dark sweater with light stripes. And I'm pretty excited about it because I just think it'll have a different look. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But it is going to be, I think I will get my first sweater finished by the 15th, for sure. I feel pretty certain about it because I'm going to get back to work on it. And I'm not necessarily going to podcast next week, so I have a lot of time to work on it. So the 15th is when I'll close the FO thread, or at least I'll take note of who all have posted. And then any posts that come after that time, they won't be counted for the giveaway. And the giveaway is no big deal because this was a just kind of a relaxed knit along. But there'll be some yarn, and there's going to be at least one book, maybe another. We'll see. It's going to be someone far away, and it's going to cost an arm and a leg to send. But I like the idea of all these things we've been talking about. Like, okay, so this was something I wanted to talk with you guys about. Like this idea of the next thing, the newest thing, and we collect and we collect and we collect. And you can see, I mean, I collect. So I really have been wanting for a couple of years now to knit some of the older patterns that I looked at and I've loved. And what I saw, I went to a Half Price Books, and I found this book that it's one of my first knitting books I really loved. I think it's the first real knitting book I ever got. It was Weekend Knitting. It's one of those Melanie Falick books that the beautiful, and this was the first place where I saw these beautiful photos, you know, of country scenes and people quietly knitting, and like, oh look, we're friends. You can use my knees to wind your yarn, you know. And there's some classic patterns in here. I've knit a couple. I think I wanted to knit more, so let me see if I can find the ones I've made. I always wanted to make this bag. It's like a market bag. I never did. There's a great brioche scarf and hat, which could have been my first brioche project because I wanted to make that brioche sweater all over pullover, and I got really frustrated by it. It was very hard. And so this was way back when people really weren't knitting brioche much, so I always liked this little sweater, classic. So you guys might be like, oh, that's old, but I love this. It's special and meaningful to me, and when I do giveaways, that's what you get. You get stuff that I like. So I want to give this away. Here's another, it's just a great, now see, my son would wear this, my son-in-law would wear this, my husband would wear this. And it's a unisex sweater. So there's just a lot of good stuff in here. There's a little cute little jacket, shrug, there's a shawl, a poncho, little wrist warmers. I need to just make those. These little wrist warmers are a they're really simple, really sweet. There's a great house sock pattern. It looks like it uses well, it looks like worsted weight yarn. Let's see. And I made these little look back leggings years ago. I did them, I striped them like basketball tube socks. Oh, and I also made this Uptown scarf. And it looks just like this. I also did it with, I think Lion Brand yarn. Really cute. So anyway, whoever wins the giveaway, they're going to get a book on designing. I don't remember what it was called, the designing book. I just had an extra one of that. And they're going to get this weekend knitting because I think it's sweet. And then something yarn. So, but we aren't really doing it for stuff, are we? We're doing it because we enjoy doing things together. But all that talk about older patterns, I was watching Fruity Knitting and they had Martin Storey on it, and he is such a big designer for Rowan. And I thought, you know what? I have so many old Rowan magazines, and he has designed so much great stuff. Do you like my Feyre scarf by Shannon Cook? My shawl. Isn't it pretty? She did hers in Brooklyn Tweed, but this is a marled patterns. It's called Dark Gray Mix, and it's a marl. And it's pretty comparable. It's really nice. It's held up really well too. And I like the graphic contrast. So I'll probably cut out some dead space while I search for patterns that I should have had marked. And I didn't. Okay, here we go. Martin Storey does so many great cabled patterns. It makes me think a little of Vera Wong or I'm sorry, Michelle Wong, not Vera Wong. And Nora Gahn has a lot of great cabled patterns. He does color work too. He's excellent at that. So this isn't that old. This is like from 2016 or 2017. But look, I just love the sweaters that these people are wearing. In fact, her sweater was one of the ones that inspired me to want to knit plaid one day. So I think he designed one of those. The Fruity Knitting podcast, they did a great interview with him, and he went through a lot of his designs over the years and talked about, because he's been doing this for so long, he talked a lot about it. And then they're having a knit along. I don't know if I will be able to do it, if I'll get around to it, but it's going for a couple of months, so I think I will. I would really like to knit one of his patterns because they're, I have all of these books. I have vintage knits. By the way, this is a great book. It's a collection of vintage style knits from different Rowan, I guess, books and or the magazine. And every single thing in here is just incredible. Every single thing is incredible. But I'm not sure which designs in here were his. A lot of Kay Fawcett designs. Oh, here we go. This is his. Really cute. Kim Hargreaves is another name I see a lot. And Sarah Dallas. Yeah, Sarah Dallas. There's several things I want to make by her. So this isn't Martin Storey. This is Sarah Dallas. But this is why I bought this book years ago. But it felt so beyond me. There's all these baubles and embroidery. And look at the skirt she's wearing it with in this photo. Can you see that? Look at this Kay Fawcett sweater. Is this crazy? This is so nice. Okay. This is all Martin Storey. I think it's the Classic Winter Collection. I got this years ago. And I really love this vest. And people were like, nah. When I showed it to them, they're like, nah, I don't know. I still love it to this day. It looks like a, almost like an inverted cable. This is a unisex sweater here. he just does really great cabled sweaters. And then there's this Pioneer that came out several years ago, and it is really good. Look, I totally didn't remember this when I said I wanted to do a plaid sweater, and I'm not doing a plaid like this. This actually makes me think of the petite knit one, but look at the texture in this plaid. Within like the it's like a cabled texture. Oh, I don't know how he did it. I'm really interested to see how. I'm a little done with plaid right now, but there's just a lot of great stuff. And all of these, most of these can be unisex. This quilt is what it's called. Actually, it's on the cover right here. I just love it. There's also the man's version. Oh, also ranch. This is very similar to what I'm doing, but I'm doing it really oversized with the Winston pullover. It's really nice. And I love that kind of cowl neck, turtleneck that's also seed stitch. So, you guys, is there better cables than this? It's just so nice. So there's just tons of good stuff that he's done. Oh, and on top of that, I have, I had it in my chair, Scottish Heritage Knits. There are two sweaters I really love in this. This was really a good deal. I got this on eBay. There's this raglan cardigan where the sleeves are totally different. They're striped and the body is a Farrell print. I just love that. And then one of the sweaters on the cover of the book. It makes me think of a Christmas sweater, and it could be done in such colors. Everything in here is good. Everything. I just like this. And then this, look at this little coat. It's just really nice. A lot of stuff. There's a blanket in here. It would make an excellent bedspread or throw. Let's see if I can find it. So anyway, these are older books, and you can find them on eBay. Old, like if you looked under Martin Storey on Ravelry, you could see which, issues of Rowan he's in. They're all really good, the Rowan magazines. I really like the winter ones too, especially. Usually more than the summer and spring. But they're really affordable online, if you ever want to get them. I went through a spell where I just collected them and kept thinking, yeah, one of these days I'll knit from it, and I didn't have the confidence or the right yarn at the time. I didn't have exposure to a lot of that type of yarn that I thought would look good in those projects. And then when I did, I moved on to the next thing. So I would like to join the Fruity Knitting knit along. I think they're calling it the Martin Storey along or something like that. And I would like to knit one of his sweaters. So, talking about older magazines and things, I'm going to maybe include some footage in here of looking through these old Knit One magazines. Do you remember Knit One? It's like the early 2000s, and Vicki Howell, I think, helped write in these, or she was she did something. She was heavily involved. I'm trying to find her info in here. Mary Lynn Patrick does a lot of designing for Vogue, and this was like a Vogue knitting spinoff. And it was aimed at younger people, I think, but it's like 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and it was kind of all, well, you'll see. I flipped through it with my husband. I made him look at it with me. But just know, I'm not mocking Lion Brand, obviously, because I'm still buying it. And this was after I said, I'm going to use what I have. I don't need to buy more yarn this year. And then I got my birthday coupon, and I said, I mean, after I go to Joann and buy some Lion Brand. So I'm not mocking Lion Brand. Well, I am mocking Fun Fur. I am mocking Fun Fur. I mean, it was fun, right? It was for fun. I knit a Fun Fur scarf once. But anyway, you'll see that. And then I might have some video footage of what he does while I'm knitting. And I'm making these beautiful sweaters, and I'm creating this mood that's just like something straight out of this Melanie Falick book, you know, just knitting and winding yarn in the countryside. And then he does Call of Duty Zombies. So if you have kids watching, you don't need to watch that around them, because probably some of the zombie stuff's going to show, and it's gross, it's yuck. And you know, I've never actually really watched it in forever. It was a big deal when we let my son play it. And he was the last kid he knew to get to play it. And I kind of just didn't fight on that. I just let it go. I didn't like it though. But it's changed. It's so much more. Blah. I hadn't really watched it in years. And while I was talking to him, I filmed him playing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so gross. I can hear him right now. He's playing in there, and I hear him going, because he's old now. You know, he hasn't played. He skipped like a decade. He didn't play video games, and now he just can't get back in the groove. My son will play, and they both have this game. I got it for my husband so he could play my son wherever they are, if they can kind of coordinate meeting up online, but my husband can't stay alive to save his life. And so when my son was staying here over the holidays, he was like in his room, and I'd hear him yelling to his dad what to do, and my husband's like, I'm trying. And I hear my son explaining, yeah, that's my dad, to other players, like, so they'll get off his back. That really cracks me up, listening to my son play video games. Thank you for including all of your DIYs. Oh, and I wanted to show you, just because they were handy. Well, they were handy. My daughter made these for Christmas for us. She took some family photos from, like I spilled something on it. Family photos from our trip. This is Highway 1. I don't know if you can see. These are from actual film photos, Polaroids, I think, of mine. This one I know is an actual Polaroid of a bear we saw really close to us at Yosemite. And so she took these and she made them into coasters for drinks. You know, she glued them, actually she Mod Podged them to a coaster, a ceramic coaster, and then she covered them with something to kind of make it, maybe it was Mod Podge, but thinking it was something that was a little more heat resistant. But I don't feel like they're really heat resistant, so I only set cold drinks on them because they're special. She made several others. There's one of the Grand Canyon and one of Zion too, I believe, but they aren't handy. So we do quite a bit of DIY here, and one of these days I'm going to get a blog post up about our kitchen remodel and our bathroom remodel, because they're really good. And they were done so affordably. I think they're good inspiration for someone, especially if you have small spaces and you want to kind of maximize what you've got. But anyway, so I hope you all have a good week. And oh, let's see. What are some old patterns pattern books or patterns that you've been meaning to knit from and you haven't done it, that you might like to knit from this year? And maybe one of these days we'll do an old dog-eared pattern cal of some sort, knit along. It might be something from one of these. And I show you some in this little video clip. There's some patterns that really aren't bad at all. They really weren't. A lot of these are made for Lion Brand yarn, and the Lion Brand didn't always come through for the type of pattern that it was. Some of these patterns are really nice. Even if the yarn is discontinued, there are other options. So I found it actually kind of inspiring to see these old designs, to look at them again after all these years. I mean, They're a little cheesy. They are. But let's see where the boys are. Okay, so let me know what older patterns that you're interested in, that you've always wanted to knit maybe and never got around to it, or maybe you didn't have the confidence and now you do, or maybe you just have some old books sitting on your shelf like these that I showed you, and I haven't knit anything out of any of those Rowan books that I showed you. Now the Weekend Knitting, that Melanie Falick book, I have knit quite a few things out of it, and it's really, I think it's a really nice book. A lot of good accessories in it. So anyway, it's gonna be a prize. I'll see you guys maybe next week. I hope you have a good week. Happy knitting, and I don't know. I don't have anything else. Bye. Do you get nervous?
Huh?
Do you feel nervous before it starts?
I feel dread.
It's the same
I'm
thing.
terrible.
Explain it again.
They're explorers and they find this.
Go ahead.
They find this
Well,
well, and they breathe the vapors of it, and then they have to fight their way out of it.
it's like Roman games
Yeah,
instead of military stuff.
yeah.
Is the whole game like this? It has nothing to do with the army?
Correct. The beginning was kind of boring. It gets really good.
Yeah, the cat just yawned. Yeah, this is gross.
See, that's how terrible I am.
Oh, don't do that. Leave her alone. No. You're too big. You're too big. Okay, what? This is a little more exciting. Jenny, don't hurt her. She wasn't hurting Kitty.
I'm in the third round. It's not good.
Oh, you already died and respawned?
I died and someone revived me.
Oh. I missed that, I guess. Did it just right,
So,
Ellen?
always a low score.
Just getting it just right. Just make it just right. There we go.
I should have this goal accomplished by now.
So, is this gonna be, is the whole game zombies too?
Uh-huh.
I thought it was just one level.
No, there's different. There's this one where you're in the Roman Colosseum. There's this one where you're on the Titanic.
With zombies.
Yeah.
You should have probably named yourself something like Pity the Dad, and then people won't be so angry.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, oh, yeah, it's somebody's dad. I'm swatching for a seed stitch Winston pullover. And I'm using the Sea Glass Lion Brand Thick and Quick, and this is a mega huge skein, and it's falling to pieces. Anyway, I thought it was my chance to use size 15s because it calls for 17s, but I'm going to end up with 11s, I bet. So these are real people.
These are real people. Cozy Lizard, Kill You Dead, and Redian.
Oh, nice. Look at this. He starts the game. I hear him load up, and he goes, are you a girl or a kid?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about this. Sorry. Yes, I'm a quitter.
Listen it up. Do you think this looks wild and crazy?
No, it doesn't look wild and crazy. Looks,
Would it look better if it was just plain stockinette?
It
It's not
looks
gonna.
thick
I don't think
and-
it's gonna stripe because it's gonna be the width of a body and not just little 5 inches. So
it looks thick and,
I wanted to talk to you about something.
okay. Don Quixote?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk
Sure.
about?
Sure.
What do you want to know about it?
Sure.
I can tell
Read
you
about
all
one of
kinds
our-
of stuff about Don
Our
Quixote.
great tomes of literature.
What about Don Quixote?
No, not really. I want to see your opinion on
It's
these designs.
you sucked me in with Don Quixote.
It's an aviator hat, can't you tell?
No, I
This is
can't.
what all the old bomber pilots wore.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, yoga.
Stay on that page for a little while.
Oh, yeah, that's so weird. Anyway, I'm just wanting to see what you think about all these styles.
Do you want more?
Style.
Is that an old magazine?
Yes.
How old?
Guess. Look, Knitters Rock.
I was gonna say early 2000s.
Very good. Yeah, it is. It's like 2004. Oh, it's because it says it at the
No,
top.
I totally did not see that.
Oh,
I
I'm
totally
not
didn't see
reading
that.
Don Quixote. I'm studying knitwear. Oh, a free Martha bag. Remember when she was in prison?
Oh yeah.
She took up knitting. That was a big deal to knitters everywhere. What do you think of that?
Yeah, don't really like it that much.
Why?
I just don't.
I knit big oversized sweaters all the time.
I don't like that one.
Do you like this one better?
No, I like it worse.
You like it worse?
Yeah, I like it less.
Well, okay. Is it the yarn or is it just the style of it?
Just the style of it. I just don't like it. I like that if it wasn't so big.
But
Like
that's
that.
the point.
I like your pattern. The pattern of it. I think the pattern and the colors are nice. I just think it's a little too
Okay.
bulky and big.
What about that one? Same thing? This is, all I want to knit are big,
This looks
bulky.
like Cosby
Well,
sweater.
that's basically what I'm making right now. I'm making a freaking Cosby sweater.
Okay.
Oh, you're monking.
I'm not saying
You're
that
monking
looks
me.
bad. I'm saying
Okay, I remember seeing this years ago and thinking that actually was kind of a good idea.
like it.
Yeah, for those crazy colored lion brand type yarns.
Yeah.
Because they didn't look so bad spread out over a blanket, and then with regular stripes. And look, it's kind of sexy. Well, I can actually say this is why knitting is sexy. They're telling us. Because I'm looking so sexy here. Okay, I will say this. This magazine has some stuff that's kind of wild in it, but all this discussion on representation of all types of people, they do have it in this. What do you think of this?
I like that.
I don't like the straps, but I like it, and I don't like the yarn that it's knit in. What about that?
It's okay.
It's okay, that's all. I actually like that. Yeah. What about this? I remember liking this except for the fun fur. Did you wear that?
Not in those colors, but I would wear a sweater like that, yeah.
It's a little bulky, and I notice when people wear them in these magazines, it's right in here. It just looks a little too thick, like it's not comfortable, but it's not bad. The style of it
Yeah, I like the style.
isn't bad. I don't.
It's nice. Looks like something you'd wear.
Nice, huh? Everything's
nice.
nice. I actually like it, and it's this all lion brand yarn. That's like this stuff, this cheap stuff I'm using right here.
Mhm.
No, it's not cheap stuff. This is cheap stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't sell that anymore. I really wanted to make that, but I didn't have any confidence I could do it. What about that?
I think it's cool.
You do?
I do. I like the different colors and patterns.
What do you think those are?
They're flowers, but
You can tell they're supposed to be flowers.
oh, yeah.
Kind of
I mean, they
standard.
could be Danishes also, but they're flowers.
It's my first thing to put on Ravelry. All the patterns, all the money. There we go. See, it's like on this purse. It just looks like a little turd.
I remember that purse.
Yeah, I gave it to Grandmommy. No, I had one, and I made one. Oh, no, maybe she wanted it. I gave it to her, and then she she was impressed that I made it, but then she was like, well, maybe I'll use it to carry stuff in sometime, and she never did. And that's okay, I guess. See? Silly.
Yeah.
Well, I get where they're going, but they didn't use anything delicate. What about these?
That's okay.
You think? Can you see
Yeah.
me wearing that
Yeah.
over my workout clothes?
Let's see where.
Over my wife
Go out or
beaters?
something?
Yeah. I don't really like any of this. I mean, that's okay. You know, leg warmers.
Mm-hmm.
Ribbon. What do you think? Isn't it with
No, I
ribbon?
don't like it. Oh, I like it.
What do you think of her pants?
Are those pants?
I don't think so. If I wore fun fur, would you be embarrassed?
I wouldn't be embarrassed, but I would wonder why you
Would
were
you
wearing
be
it.
embarrassed for me?
No, I just wonder why you would want to wear it.
What about
Not
these
a fun
pants?
fur kind of person.
About these pants?
No, I don't like them.
Why? I want
They
to
just
see.
kind of look sack-like.
I want to see if anybody has made them.
You just
I know that nobody's made them. Oh my gosh, 7 people have made them. I don't think I can show it though. They
Well-
actually don't look bad because I don't have permission. That's not right. They actually don't look bad though. The ones I made, they look like little, yoga pants.
that's
Style.
nice.
This one,
But
I like it.
yeah, that's nice.
I like it. I don't like the glittery yarn, but I do like that style of top. I think that's kind of classic and
Yeah.
cute. Plaid, like what I'm doing.
Mhm.
But probably neater. Mine's messy. What about this? Baba boom, huh? No?
Don't like it.
What is yarn? Oh, it just doesn't match that at all. What about this? I like this kind of because it's a
Okay.
good way to deal with like little bits of yarn.
Mm-hmm. It's
It makes
okay.
a fringe. It's okay. What about these?
No, I don't think it's
But you wouldn't be embarrassed if I wore it?
the hat. Yeah,
You would be embarrassed if I wore that?
yeah, that looks kind of silly.
Would you be ashamed of me?
I wouldn't be ashamed of you.
You'd be ashamed for me?
I don't know. What magic word do you want me to say?
I just want you to say something that sounds horrible.
Okay.
That's all. Wearing our shapeless sweaters. And doesn't it look cute? All shapeless hanging off my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It actually does look comfy. Would you be embarrassed to be seen with me if I wore this?
Like if you wore that out in public, yeah, because who wears that out in public?
What if I jumped like this instead of walked everywhere we went in public?
Well,
Would
I
you be
mean,
embarrassed
if
to
you
be
were
there?
able to jump like that everywhere we went in public, I would be impressed.
Here's the guy's issue. And look, cool guy's knit too. He
Are
does
those-
not look like he knows what he's
Are
doing.
those
though.
plunger handles?
No, they're not. I don't think they have how to make that in here, but let's get to the good stuff. First of all, I remember reading this way back in the day.
Mhm.
The kids were little. And I thought, I wanted to make a skirt out of jeans anyway. But then I thought this was kind of cool, but I didn't like the metallic sheen of it. What do you think of that?
I don't like the way that looks.
Really?
just because it's all ripped up with the lace in it.
Yeah.
Not supposed to
Who's
know
Will
this person.
Forte? Or he's supposed to be famous, I think. Who
That's
is
the last man on earth.
Uh-uh.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not. You're lying.
No, I'm not. That's Will Forte, last man on earth.
No.
Yes, Will Forte is last man
Get
on
out your
earth.
phone and prove it. I don't believe that at all. No way. This is making it so much cooler if that's true. Stop. You know what? It might be. But they didn't use him. They used some other guy on the cover.
Will Forte, live and the last man on earth.
Okay. That is crazy. Okay, I found something you can wear for Halloween. Oh, he was in Saturday Night Live when they did this because they're calling it Saturday. Wait for it, Knit Live.
He was in
And Vicky Howell wrote for this magazine.
Gingerman Franklin.
Blah blah blah.
The other one
Oh, how
was more
cutesy.
fascinating.
It was more fascinating than this. No, are you sure this isn't fascinating? Look, a tie, a knitted tie.
No, thank you.
Why? It looks like something I made once. Oh my gosh. This is horrible. I don't remember this at all. Oh,
That's why you wanted this.
Bare necessity. Speed sticks.
They're trying to do the, what's his name?
No, I don't know his name. It's just
The famous actor that posed on a bear rug.
Oh,
Smokey and the Bandit
oh
guy.
my gosh, Bourbon.
Yes.
Ew. Ew. And look at it. It's a fun fur bear rug.
Yeah.
Because nothing says sexy like a fun fur
Nothing
stuffed animal.
says masculine. Like,
Fun fur. Okay.
that's nice.
Which one?
That middle one.
Yeah,
that's
it
cool.
is. What about? Oh, you know what? This is Jill Draper. And she does yarn. What do you think of that? It's
I
kind of
think-
bulky. Would you wear any of these?
That scarf's kind of nice, but I don't wear scarves.
You could wear scarves.
No.
See how it's bulky?
I don't
It
like
looks
that.
too... It's not bad, the design, but like right here, it doesn't look like it fits right. Because it's so... To me, it's so bulky in the armpits. Like it needs to be oversized or something to fit better. And this is kind of a matrix ripped. What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Would you like to wear a faux ripped sweater?
I wouldn't wear that, but I would wear that.
Oh, really? That's kind of heavy.
Nice.
That's kind of heavyweight, huh?
Oh, I still like it.
Would you do the smolder? Normal. I like this.
I like that too.
I really do want to make
It's a
this.
girl's sweater.
Yeah. It's a girl's sweater. It is, and the style of it just isn't a normal style for men. I like that too. I actually like this. Who's this by? What do you think of this?
I think I would like it if it was different colors.
Like just not these colors?
Yeah.
Maybe more traditional?
Yeah.
Grays and things? Browns? I think that's nice.
That's nice.
It's very nice. I don't think anyone's ever made anything from it. It's got a little pockety. It's cute. Okay, what about these?
No,
Why not?
just don't like it.
I kind of actually think
Like that.
that's kind of cute. I know it does look a little like something, a weaving, but you like this?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you like that smolder? Come on. What if I added these sleeves to your
I like
t-shirts?
that.
You wouldn't want to wear them? Okay. What about that sweater?
Oh,
It's like, it's not a sweater. It's added
I
to
know.
a puffer. Boy, it really is a puffy jacket with all that on. This is for the sportsman, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone wears. this to a fight. All boxers wear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about that? Like it?
I like that if it wasn't that extra fringy stuff on it.
With that.
I think I would like that if it was different colors.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. I'm not done with, okay, yeah. Because this makes sense at a boxing gym. Like it?
This?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. Would you wear that hat?
No. See, I should have this done by now.
I guess it's supposed to look like, I don't know. Isn't that fun? And it makes these crazy,
Oh my gosh.
loopy, I think crocheted boots. See, that is fun though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
That looks like fun. I think that the kids would get a kick out of getting something like that. Maybe not quite so tall for
Yeah.
Christmas,